Everyone seems to think Todd Monken is the worst hire of this cycle. Are they right? Anthony Moeglin and I will talk about it here coming up on our latest episode of Browns Roundtable podcast. We appreciate you guys coming to hang out. Make sure you head on over to brownsroundtable.com. Find any of our written content over there. Make sure you join the community space, join the page in general, and of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well if you haven't done so already, where you can find more content like this, press conferences, all those different things from throughout the year. It's going to be hot and heavy over there pretty soon because the Combine will have you covered with different prospects and Andrew Berry and Todd, I almost said Kevin Stefanski and Todd Monken and all that good stuff. So make sure you're following along over there. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you use the QR code in the top corner next to Meg's head. And you know,
I feel like I'm
on the
back
other side. It's on the there you go. There you go. That right there.
You know what it is? I'm mirror however.
That happens to me too.
I'm mirrored, so it's right here.
On another show, I'll try to
on do a screen. It's right here.
Yeah.
On your screen, it's right there.
On my other podcast, I try to do these faces where I can clip it and put it on the graphic, and so I'll sometimes do a thumbs up, and I'll think it's on the right. I think it's on the right side, and then it's not on the right side. So I screw that up all the time. Anyway, I led you off with the question there, Megs, and I think it's where I want to start the show because I continue to see everybody, especially now that Clint Kubiak became the final coach hired this cycle, the 10th guy this week. He joins the Las Vegas Raiders after helping lead the Seahawks to the Super Bowl with their great offense this past year and Sam Darnold. And so that sort of puts an end to the 2026 hiring cycle and the carousel of coaches that were hired. We kind of knew that one was coming. And so that sort of gave everybody their last chance to stoke the fire on best hire, worst hire in that conversation. I think I saw Colin Cowherd did it this week. I know my other podcast, the network I work for, the Locked On, they did a ranking, and Todd Monken was last on that list. He was last on Colin Cowherd's list. He was last on everybody's list. Everybody just thinks this hire is god awful and the stupidest move ever made by a franchise. And I'm curious your thoughts on this before I kind of get into my spiel here, because I honestly think a lot of this just stems from actually what we talked about when the hire was made. Honestly, It's less about Todd Monken and it's more about, I think people just don't trust the Browns to get these types of things right.
Why almost everyone saying that they don't like it kind of fires me up a little bit because they didn't do the flashy thing. They didn't do the sexy thing. And that's a lot of it too, Spence. A lot of these young guys have a lot of hype around them. You get a Jesse Minter in there. There's a lot of excitement around him. Can he be the next Mike McDonald? Can he be, he's the next up and coming guy? Clint Kubiak just led an offense to the Super Bowl. That's amazing. Can he continue to do that with Fernando Mendoza in Las Vegas? All these young guys, had they hired Shieldhouse or had they hired Judinsky, the conversation's much different. Just because Monken's not the sexy name, just because he's older, just because he's been around the block and this is his first time being a head coach, they're going to get the negative thoughts on it. I honestly think that because Colin Cowherd says it's the worst hire, that gives me a lot of confidence that it might be the best hire because, a lot of those guys just like to, when they get the opportunity to throw the Browns down under the bus, they do it and they take their swings at it. But I honestly don't think it's it's not the best hire in my opinion. It's certainly not the worst. It is absolutely not the worst. I think he's a good coach, but the optics are there. He's definitely wasn't the sexy hire, and that's fine. And in my opinion, I think that's fine.
Here's the thing. I would never try to sell anybody on the idea that the Browns job is was the most attractive job out there. And in all honesty, there's an argument to make that it is the worst. I pushed back on that and said, you have the defense kind of already settled. It's about building the offense. And honestly, building an offense might be attractive to somebody out there. Yeah. Seems like Todd Monken's at least into that. I think I had, at the time, said I thought the Dolphins job was the worst because other than the weather, they're also crippled by a quarterback contract and a guy that's going to sort of be stuck there next year. I don't know how you navigate that. I also thought the Cardinals job was kind of just meh. So I probably would put the Browns maybe slightly above those two of the jobs that were available this offseason. But I think a lot of it just stems from the optics of the Browns that people think Todd Monken's a terrible hire. And here here's what I would say. And by the way, I said it was Colin Cowherd's list. He was actually, I went and looked this up just to confirm. The list that he put up was actually the Athletics survey of NFL coaches and execs that were saying, so this was actually a bigger picture thing. I should have clarified that from the beginning. This was the NFL coaches and execs voting on this through the Athletic and deciding that Todd Monken was the worst hire this
season. If I could eat my words, I would, but still fires me up that Cowherd was saying that because.
Well, no. So, but here's the thing: like, that doesn't mean like the NFL execs and coaches are right on this either. And what I think is interesting is like I guess this is where I take this conversation. You can sit here now and say you think this is the worst hire if you want to, and you might be right. But I also think, like, when we think about these coaching hires and searches and the coaching carousel that happens every all season, let me go back. Let me take you back to 2022. In 2022, there were also 10 coaches hired, and only 2 of them going into 2026. So 4 years later, are still employed in the same role with that team that they were hired to be a head coach for. It's Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings and Todd Bowles with the Bucks. And the only other one that even got into like got to see a third season with those guys was Brian Daboll. He got last year to sort of prove himself. Or I guess the only other one that got to see a fourth season, I should say, because 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, he got a fourth season at least to start, and then he was fired midseason. So only 3 of the 10 even got to year 4, and only 2 of them are still employed now 4 years later. And so what that tells me is, like, in 2 to 3 years from now, we're going to be talking about probably like 2/3 of this cycle could be fired and looking for jobs again. Like, that's kind of the life cycle of coaches in the NFL. Like, it's more likely that happens than 8 of the 10 teams just absolutely found slam dunk hires and are going to be the coaches with their respective teams for, like, 15, 20 years, like Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh, right? So when I think about that, I and also here's the other thing: 6 of these coaches in this cycle are first-time head coaches. And so a lot of what people, whether it's coaches in the NFL and execs in the NFL, whether it's you and me on a podcast doing a ranking, a lot of what we're basing this off of is like vibes. Jesse Minter has a lot of good vibes. Everyone's like, oh, Jesse Minter, that's a good hire. But I think a lot of it has to do with just people think it's a good hire because the Ravens made it. And so, like, I think that applies here. But there's 6 first-time head coaches. Monken's one of them. And I'm willing to bet you that, like, one of those guys is just like a disaster. Like that They come in and they're like, they have no idea what they're doing. They're in over their head. And I'm willing to bet that Monken's not the guy that's in over his head, because he, at least, even though he's never been a head coach before, at the NFL level, I should say, he's at least seen so much more than a lot of these other guys in the NFL, where he's probably more prepared for this role than some of these other guys are. So that's kind of where my head's at with it. Like, I'm willing to bet he's not the first coach fired. And if that's the measuring stick for what the worst hire was, then I think he's going to absolutely surpass that.
Yeah. And who do you think the first coach fired?
Well, I do want to answer that question. I was going to add one other thing here too, because I wanted to give you a chance to sort of respond, but the other thing I was going to say was, like, situation also matters. And yes, like, the Browns situation isn't great right now, but if you're Todd Monken, you're being hired to fix this offense. And Andrew Berry's basically told you at every turn so far this offseason, we're expecting a lot of turnover on the offensive side of the ball. So if they know that, and they know that they're going to have a very young team next year and a very young offense next year, then doesn't that sort of lead you to believe that Todd Monken's going to have at least 2 years to kind of turn this thing around? Like, and don't get me wrong, like, if he's Freddie Kitchens bad, like, practices are unorganized and guys don't know what the hell's going on, like, yes, then he could absolutely get fired in year 1. But I don't think that's going to happen with Todd Monken. So unless it's like that bad, I feel like he's going to have some leeway here to institute his vision for this offense and the team that he's trying to sort of drag out of the doldrums that they find themselves in. And that's going to take some time. Think about it compared to, let's throw Joe Brady out there. Compared to Joe Brady, who's with the Bills, and the previous coach before him got fired because he couldn't get it done in the playoffs anymore, and they couldn't get to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So if the Bills flame out like 2 straight years in the second round of the playoffs, how do we know that Joe Brady's just keeping his job? And, like, is he same thing with Jesse Minter, by the way, who I actually think is a good hire. Like, I'll subscribe to that same theory. But, like, if the Ravens are also ready to win right now, And so if they fall short in the playoffs or they miss the playoffs 2 straight years or something like that, like, do we know for sure that he's going to keep his job? Like, I don't know. So situation also matters. And I think about all these different things. I think about like which coach is getting fired first. So I guess I'll sort of throw the question back at you, but yeah, I'm curious just your thoughts on all that.
The standard that I think the Bills and the Ravens example that you just shared is perfect because even the
Steelers, by the way, like previous coach got fired because they lose in the playoffs in the first round all the time. And like if Mike McCarthy can't get over that hump, like how long is he going to be employed? He's not even a first year head coach.
Germ, the best. This was more so in jest, but the best post or the best tweet I saw about the Mike McCarthy hire was like, "Hey, Mike Tomlin was like, if you shit your pants and then instead of changing your pants, you change your shirt because you didn't fix the problem, right? You actually just made it worse."
Jesus Christ.
No, but it's the standard that the Buffalo and Baltimore example is so perfect because their standard there is to win a bunch of games and go to the AFC Championship game, right? Like that's what's going to be successful, and then to go and Joe Brady is being evaluated on if he gets Josh Allen a Super Bowl. Like that pressure is insane. Like he will be a failure unless Josh Allen wins the Super Bowl, bar none. That's it,
or at least gets there because they haven't gotten there even.
Dude, it's like, man, like that is a high bar to clear. And for Todd Monken, it's totally opposite. And that's why the hire again, and I'm trying, like, I try really hard to be like, okay, take my fan hat off and put my just put analysis hat on. And I really do believe like Todd Monken's been through hell in coaching. He's been a coach for 40 years. He's never been a head coach at the NFL level. He's seen a lot of things. He's been a head coach one time. He turned a program around. But listen to him talk. Like he's not going to take any BS. He's going to hold people accountable. He's going to hold coaches accountable. And that's the type of personality you need to flip a situation like Cleveland has. Cleveland has a bad situation. They need to learn how to win football games. That's just the nature of the beast. We've been saying it for 20 years. We thought that, we had a glimpse of hope when we made the playoffs 3 years ago in 2020 or 5 years. 6 years ago now in 2020, and then 3 years ago in 2023. But they're trying to get rid of that stink, and maybe it is the guy who's going to come in there and take no BS and really push these guys to be great. The Browns hire continues to grow on me because I think the fit is really good. I think that there's a couple out there, Spence, that question me on both sides. There's a couple that I question from like the team side, and there's one specifically I question from the coaches side. And I'll hit on that in a second. The one that I really question from the team's perspective is Pittsburgh. Like I couldn't believe I told you this before the show. I saw I guess a fact. It's not even a stat. Who do you think's older, Mike McCarthy or Todd Monken?
I'm gonna guess Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, Mike McCarthy's 2 years older than Todd Monken. Todd Monken is 60. The Steelers hired a 62-year-old.
The only reason people think that I shouldn't say that because there is some evidence that like Mike McCarthy's won in this league before, and so like it is fair to say like you've seen him do it, but you're not hearing anybody. I guess there are some people ripping the Steelers, but like most people are like, yeah, that's a pretty good hire because he's been a good coach over the years. But it's like his age is also something. But one of the things that the Browns get knocked for is like you hire a 60-year-old coach, but it's like, well, the Steelers hired a 62-year-old coach. And the only difference is you've seen one be a head coach before, right?
Yes.
That's the difference.
He won a Super Bowl in 2011, right? 2011 for us feels like it was close. It was 15 years.
I was in college then.
Man. His Super Bowl ring can drive, or it has its temps right now, and like that's pretty crazy. But like, yeah, that one was shocking to me. That was the most shocking because it was. Not only was it a weird hire just in terms of fit, like he's from Pittsburgh, but that's really it. But also it's not a Steelers move. The Steelers hire young guys. They give them a leash that is 5 miles long. And they come in and they build a beautiful structure around them, and they're successful. And then they're successful for a long time. That's their MO.
Yeah.
If Mike McCarthy has a successful tenure in Pittsburgh, it's going to be 5 years. He'll be 70 in 8 years. Like if he's successful, he's got a 5 to 8 year window, maybe 10. But then you're moving on. You're moving on.
It's a weird one too because like maybe the reason people think that's a good hire too is like, well, Steelers don't fire coaches, so like they'll have the stability. But like you're right in that like Tomlin got there at 34, I think he was at the time. Yeah. Like this is a different situation. Like Mike McCarthy's not going to be there for 20 years like Mike Tomlin was. Like there's just no way. So it almost feels like it's like a transitional hire anyway.
Yeah.
And so like, is it a guarantee that the same way the Steelers have handled their coaches before, and it's just for sure he's going to make it 10 years because the Steelers don't fire coaches? Like, is that a guarantee? I don't know. So I'm with you. That one definitely was weird to me. And I agree that it was kind of perplexing that they went that route. But yeah,
I want to ask you this one: do you have what's I guess your weirdest fit if you're looking at all the coaches? And I'm putting you on the spot. We didn't discuss this. We didn't text about this. So I'm going to filibuster here for 10 more seconds. But what's kind of the weirdest fit, or like the coach to team that you're like, that one doesn't make a lot of sense on either side? I have one.
I mean, it honestly might be McCarthy, who I think is
mine is Robert Saleh in Tennessee. And here's why. It's because
they have the quarterback.
Well, it's less of that, Spence. It's more so, in my opinion, like how many chances does a coach get? Like if you fail once, you'll get a second chance. If you fail twice, that's like like you're rarely getting a third chance.
Honestly, McCarthy's one of the rare ones because he is getting a third chance.
He's getting a third chance, and it took him several years, and he had to kind of fall out of the limelight and to come back. But if it doesn't go well for Saleh in Tennessee, he's not getting a third chance, and maybe he just is a defensive coordinator. But for me, like if I was Bob Saleh, and certainly I'm not, right? I'm talking on a podcast and not coaching football. But if I was Bob Saleh, I would have wrote down Buffalo, Baltimore, but probably Buffalo, Baltimore, Pittsburgh. And if it wasn't any of those three, I'd have said, I'm going to stay defensive coordinator and just kind of do what Vrabel did, kind of just let the excitement about me just continue to grow. So I become the number one hire in whatever window fits. I don't know, man. That one to me was odd because it's like, all right, dude, you're taking a major risk. And if it doesn't work in Tennessee, you're not getting another chance.
It is a major risk. I will say, I do think what's right there is like how he's filled out his staff. I mean, getting Brian Dable as your OC is a pretty good setup,
that's a good point.
Right? When you have a rookie quarterback. So, but again, the problem with that is the reason that I thought that was going to be the direction you went, or the reason I thought you were going to say the quarterback thing, is because that's the big problem, right? Like you have a defensive-minded coach, you have this young quarterback that you're trying to develop. If Dable gets another shot to be a head coach at some point, who's going to be his coach? And then you're like changing out the OC a bunch of times and all those different things. So like it could be 1 year with Dable if Cam Ward really takes off next year. So that's kind of the concern. I can see why that's a weird fit. I honestly think McCarthy feels like the weirdest fit of all, just because of like the timeline of it all.
Yeah.
And then some of these guys, I just don't really know like what to think about them. Like I don't. People like Mike LaFleur to me. And honestly, I honestly think Mike LaFleur is probably my answer to who I think gets fired first. I have no idea about this dude as a head coach. I know he's coming from the McVay tree, so of course he's like a hot name. And I wonder, but like Arizona's like such a weird spot. They're going to have to get a quarterback, but they're not going to be in position to draft one this year. So if I'm guessing who gets fired first, I think it might be Mike LaFleur because he's probably the one I'm kind of looking at saying, of all the first-year coaches, he's the one that I'm kind of like, I think people assume he's going to be good because Matt LaFleur is good, but do we really know? Like, they're different people. You know what I mean? Like, just because they're brothers doesn't mean he's going to be great. So, that's probably the first one to look at. And honestly, like, I think McCarthy and Joe Brady kind of McCarthy, I think the Steelers would try their best to be patient. I just don't know if it's going to be like 10 years plus patient. But I think Joe Brady, honestly, is probably my second answer because of what we laid out, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the Bills flame out in the playoffs, like if your reasoning for firing Sean McDermott was they can't get it done in the playoffs and we need somebody who can get us over the hump, and then that coach isn't doing that, then like how long of a leash do you get before the owner looks like a hypocrite for firing the other coach? Mm-hmm. And this feels very much like we hired the guy that gets along with Josh Allen and they have a good relationship and we think he's going to do well with him. Well, we saw how that worked out in Cleveland with Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens. So like I could see Joe Brady's like whole thing being like a shit show, and I could see it being like, yeah, everything's great with Josh Allen. So we'll see. But
and like the
volatility, I do think Joe Brady's actually built out a good like staff around him too. I'll say that. But I'm interested in that one.
The volatility there that we talked about earlier, like what happens if they get off to a 2-3 or a 1-4 start next year. And it's like, whoa. Yeah, it wasn't. They weren't winning football. They weren't winning playoff games with Sean McDermott, but man, they were playing good football.
Yeah.
Like how loud does it get in Buffalo and Bills Mafia land that, they got this new guy in there that Josh handpicked, and I don't know that.
So what's your answer? What's your answer on who gets fired first?
It's LaFleur. Like it's absolutely LaFleur in Arizona. I was waiting for my phone to ring. Like I didn't know who wants to coach the Arizona Cardinals, and it did feel like that was kind of the case.
I'm also like,
hey,
go ahead.
No, it's just like, well, who wants to coach Arizona? You don't have a quarterback. They've never been good. They've never been relevant. Like they're at least like when you're with Cleveland, you're like, all right, at the very least, if you win football games, the city's going to catch on fire and everyone's going to love you. Like if you win football games in Arizona, people are on the golf course, right? Or they're doing other things. Man. Like they don't get.
We got some fan base on fan base crime now here. We're talking like shit about the Arizona Cardinals fan base and how they won't show up for a Super Bowl parade. I don't know. I mean, there's some pieces there. You got Marvin Harrison Jr., you got Trey McBride, but like I don't know. I that job's always felt weird. I'm not 100% sold on like Jeff Hafley. Like I like Jeff Hafley, but do we know he's gonna be a good coach? The other thing about like situations too. I love what Clint Kubiak did with the Seahawks this past year, and he's been a name on the rise for a couple years now. But like, how long is his leash if you're drafting Fernando Mendoza? And if it doesn't work out, do you get a chance to draft a second quarterback? You know what I mean? Like that could be for you draft Fernando Mendoza 3 years later, you're out of a job because he hasn't developed enough and you wasted the number 1 overall pick on him. So like, that's another interesting one. Like as soon as you draft your quarterback, you're tying yourself to that guy and the clock starts. And Monken isn't going to have to do that, at least not yet.
It's such a, and this is the NFL, and he won the Super Bowl, but he had an incredible running back. He had the best receiver in football, and he had a quarterback that he made. Let's give him credit just for this argument's sake. Let's give him credit for the quarterback that he made, and you have a great offense. And because of that, and you were paired with the best defense in football, right? And they did get into a couple shootouts like against the Rams and stuff, but what happens when you become the worst roster? And what happens when you go to the worst team with no receiver? You do have a good running back, but a horrible offensive line. That's a tall mountain to climb, man, and that is a big, big challenge. For all these guys. Like all these guys, I think, are in the same boat. Todd Monken's going to experience the same thing. You're going from Lamar Jackson to Shedeur Sanders, and it's like, okay, how do you adjust? And I get that. Obviously, that's the mark of a good coach, right? Like that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Todd Monken and the coaching staff, he continues to search for a defensive coordinator. He's interviewed a number of different guys. I know our guy Jonathan Cooley from.
Let's go. Come on.
John Carroll is in the running for that job. I know Corey Unlin, who he worked with earlier in his career, and also who is a Jim Schwartz disciple, is one of the more recent ones they requested. There's several other names. They interviewed a couple internal guys in Ephraim Banda and Jason Tarver, who honestly I think either of those guys make a ton of sense to kind of keep things status quo. But I also think Unlin makes some sense because I think Unlin was kind of the betting favorite, just because of his familiarity with both guys, Schwartz and Monken, and he's going to run the same system. So like, but it'd be interesting to get like an outsider in there instead of somebody internally. But those are some of the options that are out there, but that continues to kind of play itself out. We'll see when that hire's made. And it's kind of the last big question mark on Monken's coaching staff at this point that he has to fill. I thought it was really nice and good that he kept Deuce Staley on staff.
Yeah.
Staley is somebody who I think is going to be getting head coaching opportunities at some point in his career and well-respected. He pushes guys to their limit, but he's well-respected by anybody he works with. And like those people, all his running backs speak so highly of like him character-wise, but also just coach-wise. Like it's not even a question like how good he is. So I think that's good. And honestly, like I think it's good to have a mix of your own guys that you're bringing in externally, but then also where you keep some guys around that kind of know what's going on in the building and have been there. Because I don't think as bad as things were with Kevin Stefanski with the record, I don't think it was all bad either. Like I think there still are good coaches in that building. There's still good players in that building. There's still good things being done with certain groups. So I think it's good that he's kind of leaned into that. Same thing goes with Christian Jones, who was the tight end coach, now promoted to wide receiver coach. And honestly, that's one of the most important hires because this team's history under Andrew Barrett, since Andrew Barry's been there, of not being able to develop wide receivers, Monken needs somebody he can trust to sort of do that as it's one of their biggest positions in need. The other one, of course, was the special teams coordinator. Byron Storer gets that job. He's coming from Green Bay, where he was a special teams assistant. Megs, I know you in particular were pretty passionate about this one, so I'm going to let you have the floor to react to that.
I think I jumped the gun a little bit here.
He's walking it back.
I need to walk it back. So, all right.
Here I was thinking we're going to get some hot take out of Megs.
No hot take. I think I jumped the gun a little bit.
You drank the Kool-Aid. That's all per usual.
No. It was less Kool-Aid and more of like, hey, do your actual research. So let's go some context here. On our Roundtable Network, I am a spot dropper on the Packers Roundtable. So I have a pretty good weekly touch on all things Packers. And similar to the Browns last year, the Packers had some special teams gaffes. And it cost them a couple games, and it was always like very frustrating.
One of them was a blocked field goal that helped the Browns win.
Yep. Just go to the Browns game, and you see a couple of those. So then it's like, okay, I was very, 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 very outspoken about Bubba Ventrone last year. The Browns lost 2 football games just thanks to special teams. They lost the New York Jets. And you can give the Titans loss to the defense and special teams for that. So I was like, all right, go get somebody that is proven that can go and at least coach the special teams group. They go and get Stoyer, and I was like, oh, you just picked from a tree. My initial reaction was like, oh, you just picked from a tree that, had struggles this year. Then I went back and looked, and the Packers special teams was not as bad as I thought. They're just not as good as I thought either. They're about middle of the pack, okay? So some good, some bad.
And a lot of categories, yes.
A lot of categories. They were up, they were down in some, but like very much so middle of the pack. And it's like, okay, I was thinking – my initial thought was we just hired Bubba Ventrone 2.0. I don't think that that's the case. You gotta give a guy like this a chance. Now, I was kind of put in my place on Twitter. One of our followers just jumped me a little bit and was like, special teams at the NFL is players, not plays, right? It's Jimmys and Joes, not X's and O's. And yeah, I can buy that, right? I can buy that, you look at the Seahawks, who had the best special teams in all of football. They invested in their punter, they invested in their kicker, and they invested in their returner. What happened in the playoffs? What happened in the Super Bowl? Their punter had 3 punts inside the 5-yard line and 6 punts inside the 20. Their kicker was 5 for 5 and should have been the MVP. I may have had some money on that, but he should have been the MVP. Yeah. And their punt returner or their kick returner, Rashid Shaheed, they traded for him, and he had 2 kick returns in the playoffs. Like, you invest in those areas and you get results. I walked my hot take back a little bit, but I still am like, I'm like very much so on the fence. Like, it just better work. Yeah.
Excuse me. I think what's important to remember here is where the Browns special teams are coming from. Right. And I agree with the assessment that there are special teams, especially even more so than like offense and defense, is so much about, the players themselves. Like, you can kind of, if you like, the Super Bowl is a perfect example of, you can have like a game manager quarterback and win football. Like, you can sort of play off of those things. But like on special teams, like there's almost no hiding. Like, if you're out there and you can't tackle and you're going to miss tackles, like, you're screwed. Yeah. If you can't hit a 50-yard field goal, like, you can't hit a 50-yard field goal. Like, that's just,
you lose.
Right. So, I think it's a lot more black and white on special teams, if you will. And so I think there's some truth to that, which is also, I think, a testament to, it wasn't all Bubba Ventrone's fault. I think there were some good things done when he was here, but the consistency was an issue. And the fact that, like, the problems persisted were an issue. And the fact that, like, he tried to identify certain things. I know it wasn't always his fault because there was injuries, but like the returner issue, like they couldn't get a consistent returner any year that he was here. And that was just not helpful in the least. It's the muff punts. It's all of it. But regardless, I think the big thing that I was trying to remind people, because I saw a lot of the same comments that you did. Like, there's Packers fans who were like, good luck with that, Browns. Yeah. Our special teams were awful last year. And like there's some truth to that. Like, there's some areas where they did not really thrive. But at the same time, I think you got to remember like where the Browns special teams is coming from, and at this point, like anybody was kind of an upgrade. Like
Definitely.
I don't even want to say that. I just want to say like from where Brown special teams is coming from, you can only really go up, right? Like there's not really any going back with this group. Like they were at rock bottom, and so I think it's fair to like give them a chance before we just sit here and say, well, this hire sucks.
Yeah, I think that's right, and give them a chance, and I'm just hopeful that it works out well. I'm hopeful that it does. And you go back to a little bit of the defensive coordinator conversation. I do think that while they interviewed a couple guys internally, in my opinion, just as it was when we were talking about the head coach, like, hey, if your defense coordinator leaves, let's get. In my opinion, it's let me get fresh voices in there, and see who it may be. I'm a little biased to Cooley.
Yeah.
Let's go Blue Streaks. But
I love Jonathan Cooley.
Of course, Cooley's the man. But whoever they do bring in there, I think will.
I just want to say this real quick. We don't have to dwell on this because we need to get to Malik Willis as a potential option for the Browns at quarterback. But I'm still blown away by the number of people who are just trying to like downplay completely the absence of Jim Schwartz and not realize that those things matter. And like Megs, you played football, so I know you certainly can relate to this a little bit. Like you played at a higher level. I'm not saying like I played in high school, but like, in high school, you're just like an idiot kid who's like just trying to like look cool in a football jersey. Once you get to college, like you take it a little more seriously, like it matters to you. So, you understand like coaching changes, how that impacts things.
The worst, yeah.
And so I just want to kind of, because I don't want to have to rehash all the Jim Schwartz stuff, and we can come back to another time, like later down the line, like how badly does the defense take a step back without Jim Schwartz? Like we can rehash that topic later, but I think people are forgetting, like, remember what happened when Bill Callahan left, right? Yeah. Like it was just a position coach, and everyone thought, it's just a position coach. Like the offensive linemen are still here, it'll be fine. Mm-hmm. But like, just because that's the classic example of just because the players are still here doesn't mean it's all going to be fine. Like there's a different temperament, there's a different delivery, there's a different style of coaching, and you got to know how to resonate with certain players. You got to know how to talk to Myles Garrett and put him in his place sometimes. And so those are all challenges that the next DC is going to have to deal with. And so the idea that it's just going to be this seamless transition, I think, is still blowing my mind because, first of all, year-to-year defenses are so different anyway. I always say they're like bullpens in baseball. But I think people are forgetting how every little individual coach does things differently. And sometimes that impacts like the dynamics in any situation, any room, any position group. And so I just continue to sort of bang the drum on, like, I'm not saying they can't still be good without Jim Schwartz, but I think it's fair to expect that like they might not be quite as good without Jim Schwartz, and that's okay. And they had to be comfortable with that, but I just think it's silly to act like it means nothing that he's not going to be here. Those relationships and the way they communicate and the coaching does matter at the end of the day.
I think that's the biggest thing is the relationship part of it, because guys are going to come in here. They all know how to coach, whoever it is, they know how to coach. They'll try to relate to players, but you get Denzel Ward coming out and saying that, he wanted Jim Schwartz back. And, I think Ward's like very good with the media. Immediately he was like, yeah, well, we're going to have a great offense now. Like, and Myles is the same way, but you really can't hide that type of those relationships. I'm in the camp that, I think that the perception of Schwartz is a little inflated. That 2023 season was like the one where the Browns were the best defense in the world and like all that stuff. And, they were good. They were definitely very good. They got the luck of a great stretch of quarterbacks that they got to play against. But regardless, they were solid. They've been solid under Schwartz. They've had great games. They've had stinker games. You're going to get that with everybody, but it's impossible to replace the relationships that you build with those guys.
Yeah.
And, is Denzel Ward going to trust, whoever it is? Is he going to trust Cooley? Is he
and listen, I know you're in that. I know you're in that camp, but at the same time, like Jim Schwartz also has a history of putting together good defenses.
Your best point.
He won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, your best point you made was was Joe Woods had the same players, right? Like that was that's
like within 1 year of Jim Schwartz getting there, he took that defense from miscommunications and giving up big chunk plays to the best in football.
Yeah,
and I understand like there were some different players that next year, but like it was still some of the same guys and primarily two key guys that are still on the defense.
definitely.
So like that stuff does matter, and Jim Schwartz certainly.
And you hope
while I think other coaches can still coach at a high level, like Jim Schwartz is a well-respected defensive mind in this game, and he's won a Super Bowl.
Definitely. Like, was Schwartz 4 years ago that he came to? He was 2023.
It was 2023 was his first year. Yes,
the first year. So he was 3 years. You know, I think also too, like just big picture, the context of it all. You know, this group, and this is what you're hoping for as Todd Monken. The group that you have now was 3 years younger, and you know all of them were closer to being rookies. Grant Delpit was closer to being a rookie. Even Denzel Ward, even Miles was closer, and they didn't have quite that experience. You're hoping that some of the leaders on that defense are able to be like, okay, yes, we love the old coach. He was awesome. We really got along with him. He was great. But hey, we got a new guy in. We're going to run his stuff, and we're going to hold ourselves to a really high standard and bring him along so if it's a new guy, so that he can learn. If it's another guy, it's to continue to build that chemistry. I think that's what you're going to cling to is like, hey, we're a very experienced and veteran group that we need to find a way to make it successful. But you never know how it's going to go.
All right, I want to make sure we are considerate of people's time, so we got to get to this big topic at hand, which there has been rumors swirling this week, Megs, that the Cleveland Browns could be one of the teams interested in Malik Willis.
This one I want to do this.
The Green Bay Packers, and there's a lot of tentacles to this, so we don't have to necessarily dive into all of them right now. But I guess the first thing that I want is like your analysis and feelings on Willis as a player, because listen, it's an 11-game sample size in Green Bay. It's not the biggest sample size, but in that sample size, you have a guy who his EPA per play is like best in football for people who have like the same number of snaps as him, or at least that number of snaps. He has some athleticism that's intriguing. And the one thing we've heard Todd Monken talk about on other platforms about what he looks for in a quarterback, especially after working with Lamar Jackson, is that athleticism piece. And so that gets added to the mix here. I had somebody tell me that if you take Lamar Jackson out of it, Malik Willis might be like the most athletic, fastest quarterback in the NFL. So that intrigues me. And so I guess we'll start with just how, when you hear that the Browns potentially could be interested in Malik Willis, is that something that gets you excited?
I used to pray for times like these. Germ, I love Malik Willis. He's like, okay, so when he if we go back to when he left Tennessee, I wanted the Browns to take a flyer on him as a backup. I thought like, hey, it didn't work out. They took a major shot on him. He wasn't quite that top tier type guy, which they drafted him to be, but he's got a lot of tools, and he goes to like, why can't it be maybe not the Sam Darnold arc, but one of these guys who goes to QB school in Green Bay, who learns under LaFleur, who studies behind Jordan Love, doesn't have the pressure of being the starter, gets to develop and be really good. And then when he came out on the field, last year, he was very good. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you he was the best quarterback in the league, and he certainly wasn't, but he was a very, very good player. And he's a guy that you're like, okay, you can see how this might work. And as far as you have to look is the Super Bowl this year. Both those teams had quarterbacks that were struggling, that were led by the defense. Not struggling. Sam Darnold was playing really good football, but that Seahawks team was led by its defense. The Patriots were absolutely, positively 100% led by their defense. And all Sam Darnold had to do in this playoff run was just not screw it up. How can he not screw it up? And, you get a guy like Malik Willis in there. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. But can you win because of him, or can you win with him on your team? I think that you can. I would want it so bad. I would want it so bad, but that would be like, all right, that would kind of shut the door on Shador, which is fine if that's what you want to do.
I don't even know if it has to shut the door on Shador, though. I mean, Monken theoretically was in Baltimore, and they wanted him, and they kind of, I'm assuming they wanted him with the understanding of like, yeah, he would sit behind Lamar. That's why he didn't want to go there, and we could just kind of develop him behind the scenes. Like, Todd Monken could still execute that type of thing with somebody like Malik Willis if they got Malik Willis to be their starter. Ultimately, I think like whoever they add, and if they add somebody in free agency, it's probably somebody who's part of a competition I don't know if it just means like we're handing you the job necessarily, but I think it's probably somebody who's part of a competition. I do think they'd have the inside track because at this point, Meg's like anybody they add, we're all gonna assume like, okay, this is somebody that Todd Monken actually like really wants to run his offense. You know what I mean? Because he's here now. He gets say in these things. He has influence in these things. So anybody they add at this point, it's going to be like, this is a Todd Monken guy. This is somebody that he wants. And so you're going to assume that they have the inside track to, potentially be the starter. But, I think it probably is going to get framed as an open competition almost regardless, and we'll see. But yeah, like I think stylistically, there's a lot that to like when it comes to Willis as a fit for Todd Monken's offense, especially on the heels of what he did in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. And again, I don't want to say he's. What'd you say?
And with Tyler Huntley as well, when Lamar would go down and Huntley would come in and he was able to keep it going. That's a lot of the similar ilk that you could compare to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I don't want to sit here and say like he's going to be a 2-time MVP. Like, I don't think that's necessarily fair to put that expectation on him. But, at the same time, there's the what he brings to the table from an athleticism standpoint, the ability to push the ball down the field and throw the deep ball. That sounds like the Ravens to me. Like that sounds like what the Ravens were doing the last couple of years. They ran the football well. They had a dual threat quarterback, and they threw the ball down the field. Yep. If that's what Todd Monken's trying to recreate, I think Malik Willis fits that billing. What I think the biggest hurdle I think people have with this conversation, and I've been trying to get this through people's heads. There's almost this assumption I feel like from a lot of Browns fans that like what the room is right now is fine, and that's going to be the group that they roll with. And I just I have a hard time believing, Megs, that you're going to hire Todd Monken, you're going to bring him in here, and then he's going to just roll with a quarterback room that he had no say in building whatsoever. Like that, all the guys that they brought in, that are the quarterbacks right now on the roster, weren't guys that he drafted, had any say, like whatever. Maybe he liked Shador, but he still wasn't here when he was drafted. So I think that room's going to change. They're going to add somebody. They're going to add somebody who Tom Monken wants. And it's just a matter of like, is it a Malik Willis who is a free agent, maybe the top guy in free agency, or is it somebody you add to the draft that he also thinks he can maybe develop into something?
Yeah, or is it one of these older guys who are hitting the free agency market?
Is it Tyler Huntley?
Do you go, wow, that'd be something. Spencer, that would be something, because the problem with Malik Willis is he's going to command a major dollar, right? They're talking about him in the same
that's the other part of it.
Justin Fields.
I know the deal that's been reported. I know Jason Lockenfora had this was like the Justin Fields deal from last year, which was 2 years, $40 million. I know that everyone jumps really fast to, well, the Browns can't afford him. There's no way they're going to get Malik Willis, because I've seen a lot of people say that to me when I'm like talking about this. Like, why even waste time talking about this? The Browns can't afford him. Guys, the Browns, if they want Malik Willis, they'll be able to get Malik Willis for 2 years, $40 million with $30 million guaranteed. Like, if that's the framework of the deal, because with maybe a little bit of inflation, because like, when has Andrew Berry not found ways to get under the cap and have
cap is fake
and have room to do this stuff? They're like Deshaun Watson's deals is prohibitive. I'm not saying like I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Browns are going to be the biggest spenders in free agency, but if their top priority is, hey, we're going to use the draft to, find some young guys on the offensive line and find some young guys at receiver and whatever else, and they decide that they want to prioritize finding a quarterback in free agency, they will have the money to do that. Like all these deals, Malik Collins deal, he was playing on like 1.4 million base salary this year because they added void years and they spread they prorate a bonus and they spread it all down these void years. That's how Andrew Berry does business. Like,
and because he's got an owner who, whether you like Jimmy or not, and this isn't that, but who has a boatload of cash and who's willing to spend it all up front. Like that's why you can do those things. Like that's the reason behind it.
Like they'll restructure Deshaun's deal again because he's due 40. He has a base salary of $46 million right now, so they'll restructure that into those void years and make it
be on the roster for forever.
No, next year is like the last like true year of his deal.
Yeah,
and then theoretically he could stay another year. But I honestly think how they restructure will be interesting because I think they probably want to eat some of that this year.
Yeah.
Because they want to make the cap hit as easily swallowable next year as they can. And what I think ends up happening is the same thing that's kind of happening with David Njoku, which is like the void. But they have like these dummy years on his deal that allows him to go into the new league year, technically like still under contract in like this weird way, and then they can June 1st cut him by like March 13th, and then make the money spread out over 2 years. So I think they want to make that number for next year. Like that's why it's going to be interesting to see how they structure Deshaun's deal, like when they restructure it, because maybe it's next year it'll be like 100 million still in dead cap, but if they can split that to 50-50, 50 next year and 50 the year after that, like that's a little bit more tolerable. So we'll see. But
I think the spirit of the question though, like here's Malik Willis's career stats. He's 105 of 155, 67%, 1,322 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. Are you doing 40 million for that? Like I think that there's good spurts in there, but man,
it's only 2 years though. It's like it's a 2-year experiment to see, and it's almost like your stopgap option until you maybe can draft a guy or whatever. And if it works out, like why can't he be Sam Darnold?
Yeah,
like why can't he be a guy that like goes somewhere else, salvages his career, and then becomes like a quarterback that can do the things you need him to do and you're asking him to do, and then maybe you build a team that can win a Super Bowl with him. Like, why can't he be that guy?
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued. I think others should be intrigued. I don't think you should write it off as just BS and it's never going to happen. I think they probably will look into it, and then it'll just kind of come down to like where their priorities are, what they want to spend on a quarterback or whatever, and we'll go from there. The other quarterback situation that I think needs to be talked about quickly here is if everyone's theorizing what the competition is going to look like, and right now we only tangibly have 3 guys in the room. So I get where it's like, well, it's those 3. But it does kind of feel like, at least as things stand right now, that we could be trending towards like a Deshaun versus Shedeur competition for the starting job. And I just got to tell you, man, like
I don't want to.
I think that starting Deshaun Watson at quarterback in 2026 would be the biggest waste of everybody's time.
Yeah.
If you start Shedeur, there's that upside, right? Where you're learning something about him every game. You're seeing if he can, become a franchise quarterback in the NFL. There's intrigue there. There's stuff that we don't know. There's stuff that we haven't seen yet. So you're learning something. With Deshaun, like, I don't know what else we have to learn. He was a top 5 quarterback, yes. But we can't keep clinging on to this dream of what he used to be.
Yeah.
He's torn his ACL. He tore his Achilles now twice. And the one thing that he could depend on when he had struggles here in Cleveland was that he was still a sort of a freak athlete who could, make things happen with his legs. Can we assume that anymore? Probably not. That's on top of the shoulder issue that he had, that he was coming back from. Like, we've seen that script. The fans have seen that script. I don't think they need to see it again. And I know there are still some people that hold out hope, like maybe Todd Monken is the right person to get the most out of Deshaun Watson. Like maybe this is his time to shine. Guys, it would be a waste of everybody's time in that locker room, in the stands, the fans in the stands, who, by the way, they're trying to convince to buy tickets to a new dome in 2029.
Yeah.
To put Deshaun Watson out there and try to tell everybody that, like, this is the year it's finally going to happen.
Yeah, I just want this conversation to be done with, right? Like, I want it to be.
Well, we got at least another year of it. So
I know, man. Like, I want it. Just is like such, because I mean the way I view it, whether it's Malik Willis, whether it's whoever it may be, if it's Dylan Gabriel, if it's Shedeur Sanders, at least there's a little bit of hope there where it's like, all right, this can be a guy we rally behind.
You're learning something with any of those options.
Yeah, and you can have fun with it. Like, at the end of the day, we're in this thing to watch the Browns and have a lot of fun doing it, right? And you throw Shedeur out, or you throw Deshaun out there, and you're just back to like gray cloud over this organization for the rest of time. And now you're wasting Denzel's last couple good years. You're wasting Miles's last couple good years. You're like, all right. At least give us fans something to cheer about, something to be excited for when Shedeur throws a touchdown or whatever it may be. Yeah, man, it just can't happen. It's just, in my opinion, it cannot happen. It'd be a disaster. I agree with you. It'd be a disaster if it does happen.
It's telling that, like, when Deshaun's not really in the picture, even in like a losing season, things just kind of feel like more normal.
Yeah, it's just fine.
And then when he is out there, that's like with the fan base, that's with like the locker room. And then when he is there, more prominently, it just feels like very ominous, if you will.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, the one thing I will give Deshaun credit for is it does sound like he's well respected in the quarterback room, and that he does bring some expertise to that group that they appreciate. Like I think that's fair. Like he has seen a lot in his time as an NFL player, where I'm sure he can teach a young guy like Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel like some things. And so I think there's value in that for him being on the roster for another year at least.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing more that I need to see from him out on the football field as a quarterback. I am very good on that. And also, like, these reports of, people in the building thought he looked like the best quarterback at practice late in the season last year. Yeah, I would hope so, because like he has elite when he coming out, like he had elite traits to his game. And I think those elite traits absolutely are going to show out in a practice setting.
Yeah.
But we also have seen him in games, and those elite traits are nowhere to be seen anymore. Like they're just not.
They're not there anymore. It's gone.
They're not there when it matters most on the field. They're just not.
Yeah.
So
and the owner is talking about all offseason. Hey, we swung and missed on the quarterback. We're gonna try.
Yeah. How do you go back now? Like, I mean, I guess you could do anything. Like, it's Jimmy Haslam. He can do what he wants. But I don't know how you'd like try to sell everybody on that after you said it was a big swing and a miss. But final thoughts, Megs, from you. How do you feel about David Njoku?
Gonna miss him. Yeah. What an interesting career that he had, because it felt like he never reached his potential in Cleveland. Like
except with Joe Flacco that one year.
Well, that one stretch. And like even in that year, Germ, he finished with, I think it was like 932 yards. Like he never got over 1,000 yards. He just was like always, and he's so Cleveland. Like he's gonna be one of those guys where, hopefully one day my son's asking me, like, who are your favorite Browns? And I'll say Jarvis Landry, I'll say Nick Chubb, and I'll say David Njoku and Myles Garrett and Joel Bitonio. And, those are the guys that you because he
Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, Shedeur. Yeah. We'll throw it up. Yeah, all this stuff. But
Sean Watson.
Yeah. But he's the guy. I mean, he got drafted the 0-16 team. He had that one, that stretch where he was trying to request a trade, but then he bought all the way back in.
I'm envisioning this being the Vince McMahon gif, where it's like your kids are like, tell me about David Njoku, and you're just like,
no. You mean the Chief? You mean Chief Slam? I
mean the guy that was taking shots with fans in the Muni lot after clinching the playoffs?
Sit down, Junior. We got to talk, and I'll cut on the tape. Look at this freaking guy, man. He had the worst hands you'll ever see, but he could freaking jump out the gym, and he wasn't afraid that he could block his ass off. And then, hey, look at this catch against the Bears, where it was like the most ridiculous thing ever. Oh, and here's this one-handed catch against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers to win that game. Like, come on, man. He's got some fun ones. Yeah. He's also got a couple of those stinkers where you're like,
I will say this, and I wrote about this actually over at Browns Roundtable if you want to go check it out, anybody who's still watching with us. Njoku leaving does kind of feel like the end of an era, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Because remember who he got drafted with? He was drafted with Miles, and he was drafted with Jabril Peppers. And that was kind of like a trio of guys that at that time, you're coming out of the 1-15 season, then you go 0-16 that year, his rookie year. They were sort of seeing those three guys as like guys that were supposed to turn the tide towards winning, like that, build that winning culture. Obviously, Peppers got traded as part of the Odell deal a couple years later, but like it was he was part of that foundation. And when this the offense that we remember being the best offense that we've seen for the Browns for like since maybe they came back in '99 with like Nick Chubb running the football and Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. and him. Like he was a big part of that, and
it was supposed to be so good, dude.
Yeah, I mean, like it kind of is like this closing of the door, if you will, on this shorter era of Browns football where there was at least some success that Browns fans can celebrate. So obviously, I know some of those guys are still here, Denzel, Miles, whatever. But so it doesn't fully close that book, but from an offensive standpoint, like all those guys are gone. Baker's gone, Chubb's gone, Njoku's going to be gone. The line that was so prominent with that group is going to be gone. Joe Bitonio might retire. So it's just like, it's kind of full circle, but yeah.
It's that, you talk about him, in the Muni lot taking shots. That was after that Jets game where they clinched the playoffs. And I think he had 133 yards in that game, all in the first half. And he had a bunch of just crazy plays. I mean, Joe Flacco threw for 296 yards in the first half. Let's see. I'm trying to find it.
I got it right here. Hold on.
Get it?
Flacco threw for 309 yards. David Njoku had 6 receptions for 134 yards.
Yeah, 134. Did he score? I don't think he scored. He didn't score.
He did not score.
No, but like it's that game. That night unfortunately,
Elijah Moore scored. That was the Elijah Moore game too. He had 61 yards. That was like his best game because
he got
and Jerome Ford had 2 touchdown catches.
Spence, remember Eli got concussed to the point where he went to the hospital. Remember that? He banged.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yes, and Jerome Ford scored on the play right at the end of the half where he broke 4 tackles.
It was a broken play, and Flacco
got hit in the face by Quinnen Williams, and he still
oh man, what a time to be alive!
Man, Thursday night football, that place was going.
Too bad he couldn't redo that here last year, and then he took it to. Then he was doing it in Cincinnati for a while. So
it was supposed to be.
That's Pro Bowl quarterback Joe Flacco to you.
It was a thought that I had. The NFL should force the Browns and the Falcons to trade Dylan Gabriel for Xavier Watts, because if Kevin Stefanski wanted Dylan Gabriel so bad,
is that a fair trade? I don't know.
Guess who was drafted the pick after Dylan Gabriel? Xavier Watts.
Yeah, but is that a fair trade? Xavier Watts is pretty good. I feel like. Didn't he have a good rookie year?
He had a great rookie year. Send him down there because Kevin wanted him so bad. Send him down there straight up, third rounder for third rounder, and let's go.
Well, we didn't have time for this.
My final thought.
We didn't have time for this, but I think if there's somebody who's an odd man out that's currently on this roster as in the quarterback room, it's probably Dylan Gabriel. Because again, it's going to change. They're going to add somebody, and someone's going to have to get cut, or not cut, but someone's going to have to be moved. And I think it's going to be Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
There actually is a lot more to get to with the quarterback thing. There's a lot more to get to with Malik Willis. I want to talk about those things. I also want to talk about our thought processes on what to do at 6, and as we start to.
Hey, you're at the combine next week, dude.
No, it's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. But yeah, there's still a lot to get to. We're in off-season mode. We hope that you'll join us for future conversations, which I'm sure we'll have one early in the week next week. At some point, the Browns are going to hire a DC. We'll have to talk about that. So make sure you stay locked in over at brownsroundtable.com and right here at the Browns Roundtable YouTube channel. Use that QR code at the top of the page if you want to go to the website kind of in a faster way. And, make sure you check out all of our stuff. And we appreciate your support as always. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Spencer German. Keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with Browns Roundtable.